My name is J.R. Borschelt. I'm the owner of Waterfowl Assassins Guide Service. You can search Waterfowl Assassins on any social media. Don't have Twitter, but Facebook, Instagram. The website is getmoducks.com. And my phone number is 816-806-1902 if you want to talk about booking a hunt.
And what kind of guiding do you do, and where do you do it?
We mostly do ducks and geese. Anywhere from, like, right now we're up in Minnesota guiding early goose hunts. Then we start in late October in northwest Missouri for ducks. And we also shoot some geese. We don't really specifically target geese anymore in the fall in Missouri, but we kill some specks and some snow geese in the fall. And then after duck season in Missouri closes, we go to Arkansas and continue on with ducks and specks down there. And when ducks and specks close into January, we go right into conservation snow goose order. And we'll be down there majority of the month of February. And then we have hunts going in northwest Missouri the last week of February into the middle of March. And then from there we continue on in South Dakota. And that's kind of just March 17th-ish to whenever the birds leave. So we kind of just hang out there for a couple weeks and try to kill some birds as they come through.
And what made you start guiding?
Well, I started guiding when I was in high school. So I just kind of had to love it. I always took people out hunting, so I figured why not start doing it and making money doing it. And you got to have a different mentality if you're going to be a guide. A lot of people ask me, hey, you're living the dream job or something. I hate giving the response, but I don't really have the dream job. A lot of guys that are owners of outfits and stuff will say the same thing. It's awesome being able to be part of hunting and stuff every day, but when you're running hard and full-fledged outfit, most of the time the guide service owner isn't doing as much hunting. It's more of the business aspect of things. I always tell people I'm a business owner first, I'm a guide last. The guys that guide for me, though, it's work for them. You're setting up a hunt for somebody else to hunt. It's not exactly not like buddy hunting where you get to set everything up and you get to actually hunt. It's not about you, it's about the guys you're taking out that are paying for the hunt that you're taking them on. So you got to have the love to want to take people hunting instead of wanting to hunt for yourself. So it's hard to cross that boundary into taking it out of your mind that it's not about you, it's about the person you're taking out.
Yeah.
So
you spoke about how at the beginning you're kind of guiding, most likely, I'm guessing, for others at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up mostly deer hunting, but I grew up in a deer hunting family, so we only honker hunt. We like goose hunting if the weather was too bad to sit in the tree stand, really. And we shot some geese from when I was younger, and it wasn't as big, but all throughout high school and stuff, I ran really hard wanting to duck hunt and goose hunt. And back then I'd almost rather have duck hunting or goose hunting than deer hunting. So I got into snow geese pretty hard there in high school too. So that's what I started off on and kind of cut my teeth on was snow goose in the spring in northwest Missouri. And then after high school I decided to kind of do my own thing, and that was, the early 2000s. There was no social media, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no Snapchat, there was no Twitter, no Tinder, nothing like that. So it was even my cell phone back then, I don't even think had a camera on it. So I carry those waterproof disposable cameras around. You take a picture and then you gotta swipe it 10 times, and it was just to take pictures of out hunting. So I got a bunch of pictures from back in the day that are in a box somewhere of decoy spreads and our hero picks or whatever you want to call. But it was never back then it was never it is now. Like now, we're representing companies and that sponsor us or we're affiliated with. So we are taking product pictures in the field and throwing those kind of posts out there on social media and everything. And back then, it was like I barely even had a website back then. Most of it was all word of mouth. But now it's so much different than what it used to be, and it's driven me to be more economical as far as what I spend on advertising. If you can do most of it for free on social media, then why would you ever pay someone to really do that? I mean, I put some money into my website. Jameson Teese, the owner of Snows Down Low, also owns Center Punch Creative, and he does website design. So he's a friend of mine. I'm associated with Snows Down Low, so he helps me out with my website and everything, and it's been a big help as far as the website aspect. Because when it comes to websites, I am technological stupid about that. Like, I don't know anything about doing that, but I can run a phone all day long or a laptop. But
have someone else do it at that point.
It's come a long way since the early 2000s, So it's in the last 18 years that I've owned Waterfowl Assassins. It's been crazy how much things have changed in the last 18 years since I started to now. And I took it full time. I technically retired from my full time job in 2015. So since 2015, this has been a full time deal. And tell you what, it is full time. It's a lot of work to run a guide service and organize things and get things going. It's a lot of back and forth.
And then for the next one is, what do you believe sets your guide service apart from others? Like if they had the option of two, you and some other dude.
Most of my outfit specifically, the guys that work for me are pretty passionate about what they do and they work hard. They put in long hours. There's a lot of outfits out there that do have guys that do the same thing. They're hard workers and they're passionate about it. There's a lot of talented guides and photographers that are associated with guide services out there now. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'd say like experience, the whole experience thing. There's a lot of guys that are new to the guiding game, and they lack the experience. I mean, they might have been guiding for another outfit for maybe a month or something like that during snow goose season, or maybe a month or two here for duck season, and they're going off and starting their own guide service, and they don't have the experience there to know how to make a call on something that could mean they're going to shoot birds or they're not going to shoot birds, or how to talk to clients or how to figure things out when things go wrong. I mean, there's a lot of things that can back experience, and to me, I think that's pretty important when selecting who you're going to go with as far as an outfit.
And then for the next one, so say you're hot into the season, you're like mid-season for whichever one of these birds. For a typical snow goose day, like say it's like a Saturday that you're out, what's your typical day look like?
So let's start from the day before. In Arkansas, we'll set up, we'll scout from like noon, which our hunts mostly go morning time shooting light, to about noon. We scout, we get on whatever feeds we can get on, and then we wait for them to go back to roost, and then we set up behind them. So sometimes we're not getting to bed till, depending on when the birds leave, sometimes we can not get back to the lodge or whatever, or back to my house or whatever, and get to bed until after midnight. And that kind of sucks. I mean, but sometimes if we've, like say you guide for me and you were out the night before and you're sitting up like till midnight, didn't get back to the house till 1 or whatever, obviously you're going to get up probably about 4, 3:30 sometimes, depending on how far you got to drive, and grab your e-collars and whatever else you need that was on the charger from the night before. Come back to the field that you set up in the day before. Get your rotaries and stuff and your electronics all set up. Most of the clients meet us at a gas station designated whatever area, so everybody can get their coffee and their snacks, blah blah blah. You know, same old that you do. Like if you're buddy hunting, and then we try to have everything set up about an hour before shooting light. That way, everybody gets settled in, everybody's situated. You know, if anybody's got issues with a gun, we can figure it out before daylight, or problems with getting stuff in the field. But we have side by side, so we can pretty much get in any field, whether it's wet or dry. And then we do the same thing. We hunt till noon, scout, set, repeat, blah blah blah. But when we get for snow geese, if we're in northwest Missouri, once we leave Arkansas, we try to kind of stay even with the mass of the migration. Once Squaw Creek gets to about 500,000 or so, I typically would like to have at least a couple spreads going in northwest Missouri. Usually that's about the last week of February. Usually my last weekend of February is packed full. And the next 2 weekends after that too. So the last week of February, the first week of March, and the second week of March are usually pretty hot weeks for northwest Missouri as far as migration goes. We set big spreads there, and they're semi-permanent. So most likely we set the spread in whatever hilltop, and then it stays there until we're done with northwest Missouri dates, and then we pack up, head to South Dakota, where sometimes we have a couple spreads that were up there were mobile, a couple were semi-permanent, and there were about 1,500 to 2,000 decoys. Now the spreads in northwest Missouri, we have 3 spreads that are over 3,000 decoys each, and then one full body spread. It's all chicken downs. And that's about 12 to 1,500 decoys too. So
fun time putting them in.
Yeah, if the ground's frozen, it's kind of shitty. But
yeah, that's not something that you generally think about when you have to set out 1,500. It's midwinter. How are you going to get it actually into the ground?
Yeah.
What I saw a lot of your people do is you put them into the corn stalks, which actually works pretty well.
We've done that, especially if I have some sill socks just on backup because I got a thin wire stake. But when the ground's frozen, we're either beating them in with a rubber mallet or finding other ways to drill, sticking them into a corn stalk if we have to. But on a permanent spread, like some of these permanent spreads, we have to get those decoys in the ground. So when you were down with us, we actually had like a foot of snow in northwest Missouri still, no birds, but central Missouri was loaded up with birds and there was no snow, barely any snow.
Yeah.
And the snow line was kind of like just north of I-70. And I relocated everybody that was those next couple of weeks from northwest Missouri down to central Missouri, which we used to run majority of our hunts in central Missouri too. Before they started draining, Grand Pass was a big stopping point for snow geese, and before they kind of hit Squaw Creek, and they started draining it. About 2016, I think, is when they really started draining after duck season. They stopped holding birds.
Yeah.
So snow geese, specifically. So when you came down, you actually hit. I think we had a blizzard then too.
Yep.
So it was really cold. The geese were hungry. We killed a bunch of birds. But yeah, I'd rather be hunting when it's about 45 degrees and sunny with a north wind, a decent 15-mile-an-hour north wind. That's when it's fun hunting snows.
Yeah.
In Missouri, anyways. But
and then for Canada geese, is it kind of the same?
Most of
it's kind of less for the decoy section, at least. For
yeah. The extent of my Canada goose season is pretty much this early goose season in Minnesota. In the chance that I have a banger hunt set up in Missouri during season, we might go there. We used to run a lot more honker hunts in Missouri back in the day. It's kind of been harder and harder to book honker hunts as decoys become more available and cheaper. So honker hunting has been growing in popularity as far as the amateur wise go. But ducks, specks, and snow geese are kind of like a specialty bird that's a little bit harder to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I always had that saying, if God made a Canada goose so everybody could kill a bird. But you know, honkers can give you a slip too. Like today, we killed birds, but a lot of the flocks that we were trying to work or whatever just really didn't care. They had an idea where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. So really, like I said, my extent of my Canada goose season is pretty much early goose in Minnesota, and some of these guys, we get some hunters that want to do some honker hunts in late season up here, but it's not really a big popular thing as far as guiding wise go. But I'm usually in Missouri getting ready for duck season until it opens, and then once it opens, I'm full tilt going after ducks in Northwest Missouri. But I'm a goose hunter at heart. I'd rather be chasing geese, but you know, me chasing geese isn't going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
We're running mostly. We used to have pits with flooded cornfields. I kind of drifted away from that. Now we're trying to do more dry field hunts and hunt over semi-permanent or permanent rigs. Mostly snow goose decoys. Handful. So last year was pretty much the experimental year on how I want to do this, and it worked out pretty well. And I had 1,200 snow goose decoys, 20 dozen big owl specs, and 20 dozen field mallards, and about 10 dozen were full body, and 10 dozen were big owl silhouettes. And we run anywhere from like 4 to 20. I think we had 25 spinners out at one time, and we had a lot of good days over that rig, and it really didn't move. We set it November 10th, right before goose season opened in Missouri, and it didn't move really at all. We made some slight adjustments to the spread, but not much at all until Christmas. So, and it was wildly successful. I mean, the mallards like working over snow goose decoys, and a lot of people don't understand that or don't know it, you know. So clients will show up and be like, "Oh, we're gonna shoot a bunch of snow geese today. There's snow goose decoys out here." I'm like, "No, that's to attract the ducks. We're here to focus on ducks. If we shoot some geese, those are bonus." So, well, we do shoot a handful of specks out of that spread almost every day last year. But we held a lot of spec bellies last year. I don't know why. Most of them were adults. So I don't think we might have shot 1 or 2 juvie specs the whole time, but it was mostly adults.
And then for the next, one of the biggest things I think for most beginning hunters is scouting, because they just don't do it. And then they don't get birds, and then they're like, I didn't get any birds.
No.
So how long do you typically spend, or your guides spend, scouting?
Also depends on the state, but like right now, early goose season, we're making some drives every day. We got a couple guys that were out driving around scouting last night, and we're gonna do some scouting this afternoon. Try to find a couple different fields, but snow goose season, snow geese and specks. Specks too they have a lot of similar feeding habits to snow geese in Arkansas, where they winter down there. So we will spend almost every afternoon, all afternoon scouting, getting on the next day's feed in Arkansas. Specs last year, I kind of had my primary spots. I had a couple farms that I hunted pretty heavy because we had excellent traffic opportunities there. And some days they'd be feeding on those farms, but mostly they were traffic spots. But we would pull our set every day and set it out every day in a different spot of this farm. I mean, we called it Golden Triangle. There was a farm, duck club north of us, that had several hundred acres of flooded rice that they'd roost on, loaf on. and then there was one southeast and one southwest of us, and we were right in the middle of all three of these, and all similar. They all had a bunch of flooded rice, and these birds just would get up and just go back and forth to each one, and they'd fly right over us, and sometimes we could get some to pull. It's just like running traffic on honkers or whatever. It's just a lot of similarities. I mean, you're still hunting a bird, a wild bird, and whether or not they want to do it, it's just whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. If you do everything you can do, like we had probably like 30 dozen decoys out today, and we had 4 of us could call, and we still couldn't get some of these birds to get close enough on honkers. I mean, if they don't want to be there, and they got their mindset to somewhere else, you might as well just kiss them goodbye, you know?
Yeah. And then this next one we already kind of answered, but what state and waterfowl do you prefer to hunt?
Well, like I said, yeah, I'm primarily a goose hunter, but I really, 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 really like hunting snow geese in the spring in northwest Missouri. I might be a little biased on that because I get to sleep in my own bed in my own house, and I get to go to a permanent spread every day. But the thing I like about northwest Missouri is seeing those birds flying high. I mean, you got to see more like feed bird action when you were down with me, because they were roosting pretty close and they were going out to feed. So they were flying not really ass high, honker high, maybe a little higher. But when we're hunting refuge birds and migrators in northwest Missouri, it's special because those birds are flying out high, and we run big spreads, so it looks like a real big feed, and those birds start spinning down on you, and it's just, sometimes it takes like 15-20 minutes for some of these birds to get down to shooting range. It's crazy how they just circle and circle and circle. And so a couple of the biggest spins I've ever seen in my whole waterfowl hunting career was last year, and it was crazy because I was talking to some guys, and I was like, man, I haven't seen some big spreads or big spins like I used to see 15, 16, 20 years ago. Like I just finally saw something that could even remotely come close to that this year. And I'm not talking about just a few hundred birds spinning out. I was talking about like 20,000 birds starting from way up high and just working and spinning and spinning and spinning, and finally the bottom got to you, and the bottom was just maybe 2,000 or 3,000 birds right in your face, and but they're still stacked up, you know.
For your off season, what is it typically compose for you?
I end somewhere around usually end of April, middle to end of April. This year was a little bit shorter. That's where I was getting at. Got cut a little short. Usually for the next like month or so, it's me catching up on sleep, and like really, I'm drained after snow goose season. I mean, snow goose season just wears you thin when you're chasing for all February hard, all March hard, and almost all April hard. I mean, by the time I get home, I stash the trailer that I'm pulling around or whatever. Everything gets stashed in the shed, and I'm sleeping till noon for about 2 weeks straight. Once it starts getting into like July, August, I start gearing into prepping for the next season. But all summer, I'm booking hunts for the next season, in whatever state. But usually it's not till about July, August, September, I'm starting to prep for getting decoys ready, buying more decoys, buying more gear, replacing things that are broken, fixing side-by-sides, four-wheelers, whatever we got to do, fixing trailers. I mean, my trailer's been through hell and back. I bought it in 2015, and it's been all over this country 50 times over, so it seems like I'm replacing bearings and stuff. I got a leaf spring that's broken, I got to fix it and everything before season, so I'm trying to wait till it cools down a little bit before I'm doing a lot of crazy underneath the trailer work, because I hate working when it's hot and bugs are all over. I don't really need a trailer until, I don't need the big trailer until almost snow goose season anyways, but
were you building A-frames and stuff like that this year as well, I think you were.
Last year I started building. They're technically skid blinds. They're kind of built like a sled bottom. They're all one. They got fold down front doors, but they have like sled runners similar on the bottom, so you can pull them in and out with a four-wheeler side by side. It's not a new invention or anything. I mean, it's pretty much you can only invent the wheel so many times. It's pretty basic. It's all square tubular steel. I try to make it as light as possible. So I think if I had to guess, mine weigh probably around 200 pounds. I mean, two guys, me and you could pick them up and be like, okay, let's go. They're not super heavy, but they're just heavy enough to where you don't want to be like, me and you would not carry it into a field.
Yeah.
Right? Bare with no grass on it. Basically, there's welded cattle panel on it, so you can weave grass or zip tie or wire tie grass on it, however you want. In Missouri, in the ditches, there'd be what they call ripgut. It's a grass that grows, and it's really durable. It actually holds up to like moisture and stuff really well. Actually, I went out and checked on a couple of my farms where my blinds are stowed away, and the grass is still on them, and it still actually looks pretty decent from last year. But I'm gonna have to strip them and redo them anyways. But yeah, I still build them occasionally. I was gonna try to make like a little side business out of it, but now that the price of steel has gone up, I don't know if I could cover my cost and still be able to sell these at the rate I was.
Yeah.
Plus, I got a 1 by 12 as a bench seat in there. Try to keep it light. I could do a 2 by 12, but they're so freaking heavy.
Yeah.
I made a handful last year and sold them, and I'm sure right before duck season opens, I'm gonna get a bunch of phone calls, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I'm busy now." So
yeah, kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
The favorite and least favorite part of your job?
Probably the people.
Yeah.
People can make or break whether you have a good day guiding or not. And I mean, it's real easy. I mean, you're hunting first and foremost, and you're hunting a wild animal, and you're hunting a migratory bird that's all weather dependent. And whether or not you have a good hunt or a bad hunt, all we can do is give you everything we can do to kill a bird. And if we can't kill a bird after doing everything, or not every day you're going to kill 100 plus birds, not every day you're going to limit out, but the people side of things, you're still dealing with public, customer relations and stuff. There's guys that are really cool out there that understand how it goes, you know. Just like the last couple of days, our opening day did not go how we wanted to. The birds never showed up to our field that we had birds in the day before. Today we hunted one of our other fields, and there was no birds in it yesterday, but we actually killed some birds today. And I get about 5 or 6 groups, and it's not the whole group, so there's usually 1 or 2 guys in one of those 5 groups that are just complete dicks. I mean, it could be, you can do everything in your power to try to kill however many birds, and they either they come into a hunt with too high expectations or something, or have a false thought in their head of however this hunt should go, and they just go completely. And they never complain to my face or say, "Hey man, you know, I'm a pretty reasonable person. If you come to me and said to me like, hey man, you know, I'm not too thrilled about how this hunt went. You know, I thought we'd be able to kill more birds, or the weather sucks, or whatever. I mean, I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the birds. But if you come to me and say, hey, can we try something for next year or something? I'm more than likely going to cut you some kind of deal for you to come back next year and give it another try. But there's some guys that just completely just, you know, you can tell by their body language and their demeanor that they're not happy. Obviously, we want to kill birds too. We want you guys to kill birds. They just leave the field mad or whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of throwing their stuff around or whatever you may have, and then they don't talk to you the whole time. They barely even say bye to you, and then all of a sudden, a day or two later, whenever they get home, or a couple weeks after, they just stew on it and they get all mad, or their buddies, amp them up, and they just blast you a bunch of bullshit on social media. And I've had that before. It's just, I try to be cool with everybody, and I try to be, like I said, reasonable. And if you're not willing to be reasonable or come to me and at least talk to me about whatever your problem was in person, then I can't do anything for you. And that's what can really make your day guiding a good day or an easy day or a bad day or a really hard day. And it's the people.
And then for you personally, do you run a specific shotgun for all seasons, or do you usually switch it out depending on what you're running?
Right now, I pretty much shoot all Winchesters.
Yeah.
I was kind of a Benelli guy for a long time. I have Benellis too, but I really like my Winchesters. Today I was shooting my SX4. I have an SX3 and another Benelli on me just in case. And I really like to shoot my SX3s. Most of the season I'll be shooting an SX3. My SX3 has a 28-inch barrel on it and a pattern master choke tube. And I don't know, I just like it.
Yeah.
It feels good. They're a little bit heavier gun, so you don't feel the recoil as much, and they're gas-operated gun, so it takes a lot of recoil away too. But
and then for shot, what's your go-to shot for duck versus geese versus snow geese?
Well, brand-wise, we're partnered with Migra Ammunition. And obviously this year with the ammo shortage and stuff, it's getting hard. A couple years ago, I shot Migra for the first time, and I was like, man, this is cool. I like it. Shoots really good. Pattern's really good. Knocks the shit out of birds. I shot Kent for a number of years, and I still do. And Migra knows that, so nobody needs to go run into Migra and be like, JR shoots Kent. But like I said, the ammo shortage right now, I talked to the owners at Migra. I said, if you guys can't get us shells, and they're like, oh yeah, go ahead, do whatever you gotta do, and I was like, well, Kent's kind of my go-to anyways, below Migra, so they're like, oh yeah, that's totally fine, do what you gotta do to survive, because this year it's not gonna happen. We're having a hard time even filling our retail stores up, with the way my ammo shortage stuff is going, so it's much they're putting out. Obviously they got to put their retailers first, so they put the retailers and box stores first, and everything they're manufacturing, they're shipping out to their box stores, and it's going out the door as quick as it hits the shelf there. So
yep.
But right now, today I was shooting BB, 3-inch BB. I shoot 3-inch basically at everything. Number 2 or at ducks. Sometimes I shoot 3-inch number 4 in timber or 2s, but mostly I'm shooting BB pretty much all season. 2s or BBs. Like I think I mentioned before, I shoot Pattern Master choke tubes for my guns, so I'm really a big fan of Pattern Master. They've been good to me over the years, and I don't know, they have awesome pattern.
Yeah. Is that a typical full choke idea on it?
They're not choked. Pattern Master has a technology. They have a wad stopper. If you ever look down into a Pattern Master choke tube, there's like little nubs inside the choke tube, and whenever that wad goes through it, it hits those nubs on the outside, and it slows that wad down, letting the shot escape the wad before the gas gets around it, obscures your pattern. So the shot pattern is more dense, and it's more in a sphere shape instead of a typical choke tube that is a constriction choke tube, like where you're talking about full modified improved cylinder, whatever. That's all based on constriction, and actually when it goes through, it squeezes that shot pattern down, and it only leaves the wad so fast, and it actually makes a string, and it makes it longer, more cylindrical shape than a ball shape. So it makes your pattern a lot more dense and more true. So you're not having to lead the birds as dramatically as you would have to. People always complain, like when they're switching choke tubes in and out all the time, or changing their shot with their choke tubes. It's all consistency. If you stay consistent with a certain brand, like I shoot Migra or Kent religiously, they pattern really good on paper. Through my Winchesters, also my Benellis, anything with a pattern master. I shoot through either my Benellis or my Winchester, and then I shoot like my Kent or Migra through those pattern masters. And once you start figuring out your lead and staying consistent on that, even shooting lead for practice, on claybirds, you can finally figure out what your lead is going to be as long as you're staying consistent with all your stuff. That's your control in your experiment.
Yeah.
So if you stay the same with all that stuff, and not changing choke tubes out and stuff all here and there, a lot of guys are complaining about, I can't get this gun to pattern with a damn. And well, you got to stay consistent. If you're not staying consistent, you're not going to have any kind of consistency in your life. I mean, when it comes to that shotgun, I mean, it's you're never gonna adjust to what it is. Your gun's not gonna adjust to you. You gotta adjust the gun.
Yeah. And then for kind of one of the last questions we got is for your main decoy spreads. I know you like to use a lot of the flats for geese in particular, and then I'm assuming you use floaters for ducks if you're out in the timber. But is there specific brands that you usually try to stick to?
Obviously, we use Big Al's for silhouettes. We started using them full time last year, and we've had some Big Al's for the last few years. But I finally formed a relationship with Big Al, and they're very durable. They're American made. Couldn't be any happier with him and his customer service and everything. We actually text and talk quite a bit, so we're always bouncing ideas off each other. It's a good decoy. We use pretty much all silhouettes for spec abilities too. Sometimes we throw some full bodies in there to throw a little bit at them, but duck floaters. I have a ton of greenhead gears, Avery decoys, duck floaters. But down in Arkansas, like you were talking about, the flood timber, I've been using lifetime decoys down there, especially when you're walking around some of these blocks of timber that we got. Sometimes you're walking a couple hundred yards or whatever through the timber. You only need like a dozen, maybe 2 dozen at most in timber, so they're lightweight, easy to carry, they float good, they move good. Snow goose decoys. They're full bodies. We run chicken downs. They're also American made. I believe he molds them in Pennsylvania or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but they're based out of Springfield, Illinois. We got a big spread of that. And then socks. We also run a lot of socks for snow geese. And those are skyflies. And those are made in China, but we have a good relationship with them, and we get them for a great price, and they're awesome. Actually, we've had a couple spreads of skyflies for a few years now, and they're pretty durable, especially for the price. A lot of people knock on Chinese-made products, but Wayne, the owner of Skyfly, I talked to him. He's in Beijing, China, and I talked to him via email quite a bit, and they're always pretty interested on how they can make a better product. And I've had skyflies out there with frozen ground, rubber mallets. We're out there pounding them in the ground. They haven't broke. Every once in a while, you might find one, catch one wrong or something like that. It breaks the knob off the top, but you're gonna have that when you're when it's cold outside. You're banging on plastic with a rubber mallet.
Yeah.
So yeah, big owl silhouettes, chicken down full body, snow goose decoys, skyfly socks, spinners. I run Lucky Ducks for the most part. I also have a pretty good relationship with Lucky Duck. Goose calls. I blow goose and duck calls. We blow Gander Valley now. Mark Vaca is a good friend of mine. Makes a really good call. He's a contest caller for years. I tell you what though, and I tell this to a lot of people though, like if I had today's decoys and technology 20 years ago, oh my god. Because back then I was running I had 50 dozen cell socks, which those were like top of the line back then, and like 3,000 Texas rags, and I can't even tell you how many of those wood stakes I broke trying to push them in the ground. It was ridiculous, but we used to kill snow geese over them. It was a 30 bird day back then was a big thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like everybody wants to shoot 100 birds. If you shoot 30 birds, you got guys on social media calling you the worst guy ever, but if you shoot over 100 birds, then everybody's happy. But I say for snow geese, like if you shoot 50 birds, that's an excellent day.
Yeah.
If you shoot over 100 birds, that's one to remember, you know.
And then lastly, if anyone wants to book a guide or a hunt with you, is there a specific way to contact you that you prefer, or what's the methods?
You can email me off the website, so getmoducks.com, or you can call me at 816-806-1902, or you can reach me on Facebook or Instagram. Message me on there. You can search Waterfowl Assassins Guide Service on Facebook, Waterfowl Assassins on Instagram. That's about it. Pretty easy to get a hold of me.
Yeah, and then everything's linked down below, so you can just go right down there. You can click to whichever link you need for them. But yeah, I think that pretty much concludes it, unless you have anything that you like to say specifically, but I think we covered pretty much everything.
I just try to tell everybody to hunt safe and try to be original.
Yep, don't use lead shot.
Don't use lead shot. Well, if we keep having a shortage of shells, I might be switching to double out buck. But no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's fun. Glad you can make it down today.
Yeah, you guys have a good day.
Yeah.